Secretary Munson and Acting Secretary McNeil. It's good to see you both. Thank you for being here today. You, Secretary Munson, have the unenviable role of batting cleanup. And there have been a lot of cabinet secretaries who have come before us. They really like to defer to you on the questions that they can't answer. However, I want to focus on something that only one official brought up over the last 3 weeks of hearings here before us, and that was Treasurer Garrity. And she noted that her budget takes into account the likely impact of the upcoming AFSCME contract for the entire state. AFSCME represents more than 65,000 state employees. So my question to you, Secretary Munson, is does the governor's proposed budget consider the impact of the AFSCME contract or any other labor contracts that will be negotiated and signed this summer?
So I've been doing government budgeting for a long time at multiple levels, and I always start with zero when we're going into negotiations. And that's what's contained in the budget. I don't think we should. I think you start negotiations at zero, and that's what the budget reflects. We're in negotiations. We'll see where that ends up. Another thing I'd rather not talk about publicly the details of, and hopefully goal is to get to a fair agreement for everybody, and then we will address how to fund the contract without penalizing agencies or independently elected officials' offices.
I certainly appreciate that you start at zero. Having negotiated a association contract as a school board director, I was in that same position, and that's where I began as well. But if history is any indicator, there is the potential that this contract could contain a significant amount of money in terms of employee raises that could impact the taxpayers. And I think it's really important to get away from deficit spending. Having sat in this seat for a couple of years on the Appropriations Committee, I never like to see us be in the red before we begin the budget. So would appreciate as much fiscal responsibility and planning appropriately moving forward around those labor agreements. Mr. Secretary, it was just recently announced this week that the Commonwealth has a new website to provide resources to women who are seeking abortions. In a statement, the government said that reproductive health care decisions should be made by women, not extremist politicians. And I would contend that if that is the case, utilizing taxpayer dollars by any politicians for a marquee website for abortion is probably not appropriate. However, I digress. We were told by both the Secretary of the Department of Human Services and the Department of Health that it is not being funded through their departments. Can you tell us how this website is being funded and if additional resources or staff were employed or used in the creation and maintenance of it?
So my understanding is it was funded through our Office of Digital Content, and it's no different than when there are any issues that are that emerge that we get a lot of outreach from constituents to know what the impact is on them, even issues that come out of state. So, for example, there was a court decision in Texas that led to a lot of questions about what is available, what's opportunity. A large majority of folks use the internet, social media to access information. When there was a train derailment in Ohio, we set up a website to provide emergency information so that people weren't just calling. When there was potential water contamination in Philadelphia, the DEP does a new website just to address those questions. So I think part of our job being responsive to constituents, just to citizens of the Commonwealth when there are issues that arise, questions that arise, to provide information for them, and not just assume that it's all going to be phone calls, and there are plenty of phone calls and other issues, but to make sure that the information is available to them.
Advertise the website If so, will there be taxpayer dollars associated with that? And I will tell you, I went on the website, I checked it out, did some Google searches, and it pops right up. You know, when you went to look for those other websites, you would need the skills of Mrs. Kravitz to figure out where they were on the state's website. This pops right up. So what that indicates to me, having been a small business owner, you have to pay a lot to get your business to pop up at that first Google search response. So are taxpayer dollars being used to advertise that website and prioritize that Google search?
That I don't know. I'd have to get back to you on that one, and we'll get back to you on that.
That would be great. And the reason that I ask is that under the Hyde Amendment and our own state's Abortion Control Act, it states that no public money shall go toward abortion-related care. Do you believe that this would apply here, as state money is being used to direct women to abortion-related services only?
I believe the site is being used to provide information to the citizens of the Commonwealth, no different than we use websites to provide all kinds of information to citizens of the Commonwealth.
So are there any pregnancy resource centers, such as Real Alternatives, included in that reproductive health care finder, or there are options other than abortion? Can you provide women all of their options under this website?
I'll be honest, I have not visited the website, so I can't answer what's available or what isn't. I know that there are resources through the Real Alternatives contract, and I believe you had those discussions with the Secretary of DHS in the last few days, and what resources are available. I think I'd have to get back to you on what is exactly available through that specific website versus what's available through other DHS websites or other Commonwealth websites.
I would appreciate that. There are concerns as to whether this is a legal expenditure of dollars under state and federal law, and also concern that if you're going to give people options, you should provide the whole range of options. So thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.